Hello and welcome to the Photo Brigade Podcast. I'm Robert Kaplan. Today I have Shin Woong-Jae next to me. How you doing?
Hi, Robert.
Hello. This is your second time, well, not on the podcast, but you spoke at one of our events about a year ago now, was it?
A year ago, yeah,
and
already.
I think you were one of nearly our first event speakers when we were doing those.
With Elizabeth.
Yeah, with
from
Elizabeth.
Esquire.
Yeah, Elizabeth Griffin. So all of you, we are on Facebook Live right now. So all of you that are tuning in, we just want to say hello. Thank you for tuning into this and checking us out on Facebook. I would love if you could check us out also on YouTube, like our page on Facebook. Follow us, subscribe on YouTube. We're also on all the different social networkings and everything. So be sure to follow us at Photo Brigade. Quick thank you to Adorama for letting us host in this beautiful studio space. They're undergoing some construction in the back, which is kind of cool. It looks like they're going to be putting up an Apple Store authorized deal. So got to come in and check that out in the near future. And then lastly, thank you to Canon Professional Services for all your support, as well as Temba Bags. So with no further ado,
yes,
we'll get back to Woong-Jae. So how you doing? How's things?
I'm good. I just came back to the city just a couple of weeks ago.
And where were you?
Most of the time I spent my time in South Korea, but
South Korea.
Traveled to Myanmar, Indonesia, and Scotland and London.
Wow. Yeah. Just spending some time getting around, taking pictures, I assume?
Taking pictures for my project and for some commercial works.
Yeah. So you and I met, I believe it could have been at a bar, very likely.
Bar, yes.
Likely a bar.
Likely.
One of the many photography events here in New York City. But you went to ICP, right?
ICP. And we met at Eddie Adams.
Oh, we met at Eddie Adams. That's right.
Yeah, but we met for the first time at the bar.
At the bar. At Eddie Adams.
Before Eddie Adams.
Okay, that's what it is. So, you are a very talented photographer. I'm going to go through as we talk about your career, how you got started. And you have an interesting path. You didn't first start in photography. You weren't even involved so much in photography. It was brand marketing for the most part. For what were your clients?
Montblanc, La Prairie, and also Nike.
Nike.
I started my career from Nike.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's cool. So I'm going to start going through some of your editorial pictures, and we can talk about that. But if you can, give me an idea of the series and your path. How did you move from Korea to New York and so on? Give it to me. So
these set of pictures were taken in a small island. It's called Yeonpyeong Island. This body of work means to me a lot because this is the very first self-assigned work for me.
Self-assigned.
Yeah. So this background story is one day, peaceful day, North Korea shoot a missile to this island. For the first time after Korean War. So at the moment, I stopped working in the company and I started taking pictures just on the street. And then something happened. So nobody asked me to go there, but I thought, as I decide to become a photojournalist, this is my job to take pictures and make a record and to witness anything in front of me.
Right.
I just jumped on the ship and I went to this island and spent one day before kicking out from this island.
You got kicked out?
Yeah, everyone kicked out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, long story short, someone made a huge mistake. Some local media.
Ruined it for everyone.
Ruined everyone. Yeah. So this is my very first start of my photojournalism work, reportage work.
Reportage, yeah. And
yes.
Was this before you got into photography itself, or was this after you came here and went to ICP? When did you start this? When did this project start?
Just common story. In the beginning, my father loved taking pictures. So during family trip and everywhere, wherever we go, he always carried camera and he took pictures. So naturally, I got exposed to the world of photography. And I also used to be big fan of National Geography. So photography was the first hobby. And that's how I started taking pictures. So whenever I have a chance, I always carried my camera.
And you shot film, I would assume, back then.
Yeah, just point shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, point shoot cameras.
Well, that's how we all start out.
Yeah,
really.
all start out.
I remember my old point and shoots, little ones, that, family trips and stuff when I was a kid. Good times. And I also noticed that these photos we're going through, again, your journalism work, are all black and white. Are you shooting black and white, or are you converting? Are you going in with the mindset that you are?
I always try to set my mindset for black and white photography, because black and white photography, I feel more comfortable when I shoot the black and white, and also my inspirational photojournalists, documentary photographers, they are all black and white shooter.
Oh yeah. Yes. So who are you inspired by? Who are some of the
Koudelka, Eugene Smith, Eugene Research, and also Werner Bischof.
And I saw that I was looking through your photos earlier, and we'll get to the next section, many photos from now, but you photographed some of your inspirational photographers. Eugene Smith, I think I saw in there.
Eugene Richards.
Or Richards.
Yes.
Richards. Yeah, I knew it was a Eugene. I'm sorry.
Eugene.
My bad.
But everyone makes that mistake.
Everyone makes that mistake, yeah. I heard him, was he there at Eddie Adams the year we spoke?
Yes.
Or year that we were there? Yeah. That was quite a talk. He has a very interesting style.
Yes.
Now we are going to da-da-da-da. If you've ever seen him speak, that's how he does it. So very cool. Now, tell me about the work that you did prior to being a photographer, and did that? I assume that while you were doing that sort of brand marketing work, you were on a lot of photo shoots. Was that something that inspired you to get into the craft, or not so much?
Actually, not so much. I did my marketing work or brand managing work didn't inspire me in terms of photography that much, but more than that, it helped me to ask myself the right questions. Why we have to proceed this whole project, and why people must buy this product, and so on and so on. And during my work at the office and experience from the international brands, I met tons of people, and I travel a lot, and those experiences taught me tremendous lessons.
Yeah. Interesting. So what sort of work did you do, say for Nike? Like what was the type of, what was your responsibility?
So I was in charge of sales marketing.
Okay.
Particularly in footwear sales. So I was a big fan of basketball, and I used to be the basketball shoes collector, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So
what are you wearing now? Oh, you are
Nike.
Wearing,
Yes.
You're wearing some Nikes.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
So it was my dream job. So I was very lucky to find that job, and from 2001, I started working in the company for 3 years.
For 3 years?
3 years.
Oh,
yes.
okay. So you actually worked for Nike. It wasn't like an agency that you were hired out by these different.
So you headquarters inside South Korea, Seoul.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Very good. So what we're looking at now, obviously, is very different from your corporate work, which we'll look at later. And you also do. You have some projects that you work on, which we'll get into after this. So, tell me about your time with ICP, the International Center of Photography.
Yeah. So ICP, well, at the first time, I have to explain from this story.
That's fine.
So I decided to start photography as my career for the rest of my life in 2010. So I left the company. Actually, before that, I joined my father's company. He was a business person. So we worked together 5 years. And so in total, I worked in the business world for 10 years. Then I asked myself, is this the dream I really want to pursue for the rest of my life? To be honest with you, I did love the marketing and brand managing job. But to become a business person was totally different story. So rather than just following that path, I decided to follow my passion and dream. So I left the company, and I started taking pictures on the street. And then I just occasionally I happened to know the existence of ICP school. Then I thought it's very not easy to go to school in New York and study abroad.
Right.
But so many people, my mentors, my friends, supported me, encouraged me to challenge the school. So luckily, the school accepted my application.
Right.
So I started the course, Documentary and Photojournalism course, from 2011.
Is most of what you shot here are in this folder here shot during that time
It's
with
a
ICP?
mixed.
We're looking at right now some pictures from Occupy.
Occupy.
And
yes.
it looks like you really got involved with that. What was your experience with Occupy? Was this your first time shooting something like this, of this kind of nature?
Actually, yes, because I've never been involved in protest scenes, and particularly, my background. I'm from business part, so
right.
I was so-called their enemy side, and I haven't met the people face to face on the street. I just try to hide myself behind my camera.
That's what I was wondering. It seems like you've done a really good job. There are a lot of photographers that have shot this and they just get in the action or just trying to make action photos. And it seems to me that no one's really noticing you. You seem like you're sort of a fly on the wall, right?
Yes.
And I think you shoot with a Leica, right?
During this work, for this work, I used Canon.
Oh, you used Canon, okay.
Yes. I didn't have Leica at the time.
Didn't have the money for the Leica at the time. All right. Well, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So,
but this, the whole Occupy Wall Street story gave me tons of the experience and lessons. And first of all, I've never, this whole, the protest and the whole, situation related to the protest, which was, I haven't experienced this side of the world.
Yeah.
And practically, in terms of photography, I didn't have any chance to face people on the street. But I challenged myself, and many people encouraged me to meet more people on the street, face to face. So I started following a couple of some interesting people. So I did the interviews, and I followed this whole movement for a year.
Wow. And was this all personal, or were you working for a news organization, or did you sell the photos afterwards at all?
It was a personal work.
Personal project.
Yeah, personal project, and also for the
school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And at ICP, it was a journalism course.
Yes.
So you had some great professors or teachers, I assume, that were working there. Were they very helpful in helping you sort of navigate this world?
Sure.
Yeah.
So ICP was more than school. It's more than school. It's boot camp.
Boot camp.
Yeah,
all right.
boot camp.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's my second home. So everybody, it's a family there, and they inspired me, encouraged me, and supported me hugely.
And what is this? As we're looking through, looks like another little project.
Yeah, so after graduating school, I did internship at VII in 2012, and after finishing the internship, then everyone started thinking about the future project. And then from 2013, I decided to start this story, following the whole story about semiconductor factory workers who got critical disease back in South Korea.
Was it a personal reason that you got into that story, or?
It's also a personal reason. So I started the research after the internship, and then I got did a couple of topics, but this whole story meant to me a lot, because again, I have businessman background,
right?
So I'm used to be more company side, but it was totally the worker side, and also I realized that these victims' story hadn't dealt with in a proper way, because most of the mainstream media never dealt with this story because it's related to a huge company.
Oh, right.
I don't want to refer the company's name here.
Let's not give them publicity.
Yes, yeah. The huge company, South Korean electronic devices company. But, and also other medias, they just, how can I say, that victimize these victims' story to emphasize or strengthen their certain agenda. So I didn't like that part. So I decided to meet these people and listening to their stories, and try to deliver their real story to the audience. So that's how I started. Why I started.
Okay.
So from 2013, I've started meeting people, and I did interviews and followed some the couple of the victims.
Yeah.
So I produced short photo essays and interview works.
And this is ongoing?
It's still ongoing.
Have you published it anywhere other than like your website?
So after the year after I started this project, luckily Washington Post published this story.
That's right. I remember.
And then after that, I don't think my work affected that side, but the company finally made the official, how can I say, the apology to the victims.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Publicly.
Okay.
And then started negotiation with these people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge thing. You're giving voice to the voiceless, essentially.
That's
and
right.
that's really what our this work, photojournalism and documentary photography, is all about. So kudos on that. That's wonderful. Feel like you're making a difference, right? Trying.
Yeah.
You are clearly. I'm curious for people, like, this is a obviously really intimate story. You're with people who have real issues, health issues. I assume some might be, life-threatening and or, fatal. How did you approach these victims and earn their trust?
Well, at first stage, I approached to an activist group working in South Korea who supports these victims in many ways. So I approached them and I explained my ideas and my visions and my plans to them. And I asked them, can I get any access or contacts of the victims? And then after a couple of talks, emails, and actually I fly back to South Korea and I met these people. And they appreciate my ideas.
Yeah.
Again, luckily.
Yeah.
And they gave me some contacts. Also, the activist group introduced me to these victims, and I started meeting these people. But for first couple of meetings, I didn't bring my camera, first of all. And I, just before asking some questions or doing something, I introduced myself. And I try to explain why I'm here, what I want to do, what I'm going to do. And so I told them, if you don't agree with my idea or if you don't feel comfortable with my the existence here, then I'll just no problem. Yeah, I'll just go back.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't just go in and get in their face and start shooting. You really worked your way in. It took you a couple meetings before you actually started your work.
And actually, this is the biggest lesson I've learned from Eugene Richards. So I was very lucky to meet him during my study in ICP. And he gave me that exact some ideas and lessons, words of wisdom.
Yeah.
So one day during the workshop, I asked him, how did you make the access, or how did you meet the build up the whole relationship with these people? And it was very simple. First of all, I introduced myself and I tell them my background, all of my story, because you're there to listening to their stories, but without explaining yourself.
Right.
How can we just understand their stories, or how can we open their hearts?
Well, this I think photo articulates in a way the opposite of what you do. As you can see, it can be quite intimidating to have all these cameras put in your face, even just one of these big cameras put in your face. I went to Ohio University for my schooling for photography, and one of my professors at the time, when we were in a documentary class, the first thing he did is he had a big SLR camera, one of the big ones, like a Canon 1D something or other with a wide angle lens. So it's a big hunk of camera, and he just went to each one of us and got in our face and hit the motor drive.
Wow.
And it was like, what are you doing? And he said, this is what I want you to understand it's like for your subjects. So be aware that when you get in their face, or even if you're around and you're blowing that shutter off, this is the feeling that you get defensive. You're put off. It changes the mood. And it was a lesson for me that really hit home. So I've been very aware of that moving forward.
That's a great lesson.
Yeah.
That's great.
Bruce Strong. He's now actually the director of Syracuse, the program up at Syracuse, which is pretty cool. So, anyhow, that's wonderful. So I think I figured out the company. Next. Okay, so, it's like a very long, lots and lots of work. How did the Washington Post end up running this story?
The story is in 2013. I had a chance to meet the editor in Washington Post, Anne Farrell. Now she is the editor in National Geography.
Oh, okay.
And I showed this work, the very first stage, just a couple of shots, and then I explained to her, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going back to South Korea, and actually I have to pay rent, and I have to pay,
you gotta pay bills, right?
And can I get any assignments? And then she really appreciated my work, and she introduced me to the international desk. That's how I started working for the Washington Post.
Okay.
And then gradually they gave me assignments. Then after a couple of months, when I get some more stuff, more pictures, I pitched this story to them. So actually, here's my story, here's my project, and I've been developing this story so far, and I have a contact and access, and are you interested in this story? So at the time, the Chico Holland, he's a writer, he was a bureau chief in Asia. So he agreed to work with me, and he wrote a great article about the whole story. That's how we published this story.
Okay.
Yeah, on the full page, international.
And
site.
what was the process like working with an editor? Obviously, you've been working with all of these photos yourself, making your own edits. Did you give them a select amount and say this is what you get, or did they ask for more to see other work? Was it a difficult process, or did they just publish what you sent them?
Well, the photo editor back then, and again Chico, they didn't demand me a lot. They already liked my the edit, and actually the editor, photo editor, Jade Snow, she made better edit.
Jade Snowmoy, yeah, she was my editor at the New York Times back in the day. Yeah,
great. Yeah,
I know Jade Snow. So they liked the edit. That's good. It's easy. It's nice when they, usually, for the most part, I think editors for publications generally trust the photographer. I think that there are exceptions. I think like National Geographic, they want to see everything. I remember when
from 1 to
everything
900, everything.
I can't even. I hate that. I hate having to show all the crappy frames and everything. But it's also interesting to see what they pull versus what you pull, and see what their vision is.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see if we could have a photo editor go through our archives and what they pull as our portfolio versus what we've put out there to represent our work as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very interesting to see the real your photos on the paper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the whole layout and
the layout and design is a whole different thing, and then there's the online version now, and it's interesting how everybody's seeing your work. It looks like we've kind of changed into a different topic now. So moving forward, what is the story behind this?
So, I've been following that semiconductor worker story for years, but while developing this story and following this story, I realized that this is not the one specific company's problem. So I found that the other electronic companies, chip makers, had the same problem, and also have same problem.
Yeah.
So it's happening again and again and again.
Right.
And also, throughout the whole process of whole electronic industry, so every single stages, we have tons of problems. So I decided to follow the life cycle of the semiconductor chip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so decide to expand this whole project into, to deal with the whole the industry thing.
Right.
So
instead of just the repercussions, the whole process.
Yeah, whole process. So the project will be designed in four chapters. The first chapter, as we can say, first chapter is about the birth of the chip. In the material the stage.
Right.
So we need 4 key materials for making semiconductor: silicon, tungsten, aluminum, and sometimes gold and sometimes diamonds. But this time we demand tin. Tin.
So that's what they're trying to get now is tin.
So this is small island called Bangka in Indonesia. So believe it or not, this is very small island, but for past 100 years, this island accounts for 30% of tin production worldwide.
I don't even know what tin. So tins, and you just dig it up. I don't know anything about it. That's incredible.
So the tin is used for the bonding and assembling the whole parts. And basically this island is full of tin. So you dig up and
it's
when
like
you
an element like gold or something.
Yeah. So if it's like it's a little bit bigger than sand. So basically these guys dig up the whole ground and use water.
Just like gold digging.
Yeah, just like gold digging.
And I suppose that probably doesn't have a great impact on the environment.
A huge impact.
I mean, does not have a great impact. It has a huge impact on the environment. Correct. Yeah.
So particularly from early 2000, when electronic devices demand surged, the whole destruction cycle, it got worse. So this whole island was affected seriously. So I heard the story about this island. So I went to this island and spent a week and travel around this island, and the whole situation is worse than I expected or imagined. And also in these images, as you can see, they started digging up at the near ocean.
In the ocean.
In the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I mean the lifestyle or the work environment for these workers as well.
Oh, terrible.
Terrible. And oh wow, this is a beautiful image right there. I mean, beautifully shot, I should say.
You saved the shot.
Yeah. Really nice. Wow. I just want to look at these photos for a second. They're great.
Thank you.
So was this the island that you got kicked off of?
Oh, no.
No, this is a different island. So you didn't have any problem here. Okay.
No, at all.
And then this is sort of the ending image of this portfolio. This is what all of it's all turned into, these chips. Interesting. All right. So now we're going to dive into another project of yours.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, I studied documentary and photojournalism, and I call myself as a photojournalist. But sometimes I just go out and take pictures. It's like a street photography.
Yeah.
So I call this body of works as a non-narrative works. My photography is more like a diary or self-meditation. And most of the time, I spend most of the time in half of a year in Seoul and half of a year in New York. So whenever I have time, I just go out and just walk around. And sometimes listening to the music, or sometimes without music.
Oh, really?
Sometimes after drinking beer or whiskey or whatever. Yeah.
When I went to Cuba, I basically every day would go out and get a little box of rum because they'd sell them in little juice boxes and just walk around and make pictures.
So Cuba.
Cuba, not in Cuba, right?
So this body of work, the whole pictures you see here are from Seoul, my hometown. So Seoul is amazing city. So it's very dynamic and so many things are going on, and also it's a very modernized city. But at the same time, it's not easy to define some historical aspect because the people only think about the progress and developing the whole city development. So I just try to document the old apartments, old alleys before they
get rid of them.
Yeah.
Demolished. I mean, you're capturing history. I mean, that's the one thing that's been interesting in my career, going to, for instance, Cuba, and just taking pictures, documenting everything I took then is that time in history. I bet it's very different now. I mean, maybe not too different, but in the next 5-10 years, now that it's open to America, there's going to be a influx of money, all that. It's just going to be changed. So documenting anything around you, we're really historians. It's really what it comes down to.
Exactly.
20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now, these pictures will live on, hopefully.
So this work is, I don't want to call this body of work as a street photography. It's more like a documentary work, but non-narrative way.
It's almost like landscape.
Yeah, it's more like cityscape, landscape.
Cityscape, landscape, yeah.
Yes, and also it's all about the requiem or elegy for my hometown city. Because sometimes I feel some melancholy, or sometimes I feel sad, so sad about this whole city because we are losing so many things, just in a moment.
Right.
I mean, once we see, I don't know actually who are they or who are we. Once they see some old alleys or old buildings, then it's time to move on, and they just boom,
right,
and build up the new apartments, new apartment complex, and we have no idea what was there, and how did it look like, or how it used to be, something like that.
Do you ever have any trouble with police or anybody just roaming around with your camera?
No.
Or you're pretty inconspicuous,
yes,
I think.
Seoul is a very safe city, so I haven't encountered any problems.
How about here in New York?
Here in New York, just a couple of guys just they
cover
their face. But
you can't photograph me.
Yeah, someone yelled at me. Or,
someone's
what are you
yelled
doing
at me.
here? And I'm busy. Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And these
tourist. Sorry.
And these pictures are from New York.
And obviously,
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
we've migrated from Korea to New York here.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like here in New York, there's more people.
Yes.
Than the ones from Korea. Is there a reason? Do you just feel more comfortable photographing people, or is it because there's just more people in general around where you're shooting? I don't know. It's interesting. I mean,
that's a good question.
Because Korea is a very populated city. I mean,
Yes.
Seoul is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would imagine that you'd have to be dodging people, but I think it's probably more spread out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good question. I haven't thought about that part thoroughly, but well, I think for the South Korea work, the whole space, houses, apartments, alleys are my subject matters rather than people. I try to capture or try to feel the whole atmosphere, the absence, some memory, something like that. So it's a more abstract work. But here in New York, I try to see more people on the street and try to get some emotional reaction between my subject and me. Because I think this whole body of work of New York is more like personal diary. So sometimes it's all about loneliness, sometimes it's about melancholy, or sometimes it's all about just some emotional reaction to the city. So everything can be a subject matter this time.
Right. Do you have plans, or have you exhibited your work, or do you use social media to display this work in any particular way?
So I'm using Instagram.
Yeah. And you post pictures from your real cameras to Instagram versus iPhone or whatever?
Well, when it comes to Instagram, I try to use iPhone. But gradually I'm posting some images captured by my real camera.
I'm starting to also. It's changed. It used to be I'd only put iPhone photos
exactly,
up. But we've had, even here on our panels, art directors saying they have found photographers for their projects through Instagram. I've had friends of mine tell me that, big art director wanted to talk to them about, some work or whatever, and said, "What's your Instagram?" Didn't ask about the website or anything like that. Give me your Instagram so I can see your work. So it makes me think, oh God, do I really want to have pictures of my cat represent me to an art director, or do I want to have some actual real photos?
But that's a huge change, right? Even 3-4 years ago, I had very interesting experience when it comes to Instagram. So in 2012, at VII Photo, back then we had office in Brooklyn, Dumbo. So we had a panel discussion about iPhone photography. So we had great panels, and we talked about should we admit these pictures as a real documentary works, and so we had back then, even just 3-4 years ago, we had those kind of discussion, right? But now the editors and the publishers, they ask us, do you have Instagram or?
Yeah. And I mean, in all the news media, they're using Instagram and all these different. I mean, I'm following Washington Post and other photographers and stuff that are out there working for these
Ben Lowy
and stuff. Not just on Instagram, but Snapchat.
Yes.
I follow the world through Snapchat now, and what's interesting though is I've found that since I've adopted using Snapchat, I feel like I'm shooting less regular photos, even through my iPhone. I'm shooting more vertical photos and putting them on my Snapchat as I'm walking by than stopping and using my Canon or Leica or even iPhone to take a still image, because it's so easy just to boop, add it to your story and move on and then look back on it and it'd be kind of an interesting story. I'm curious to see how Snapchat and other social mediums like that are going to be used, especially you. I mean, you've just started using, you said you just started your account, and Snapchat just made a big change. It went from just being direct messages that disappeared, then it changed to having stories where you could add these stories, but everything was instantaneous. You could only record something and put it on. You couldn't ever upload a video or something from your photo album. Yeah. And now you can. So now you can add anything, videos and photos from your camera roll and have a more well thought out, put together story.
Yeah, so I think the way of communication with the audiences, with the people, particularly in the practice of photojournalism, I think the way of communication is changing dramatically, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whoever thought about this Snapchat for the photojournalism?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if there's going to be some way that we incorporate our photography into Pokemon Go.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah,
right?
Why not?
Did
you download it? Did you start?
I couldn't believe it. I was on I just got back from a little Northern California trip, and I sort of was disconnected, believe it or not, from the internet for a little bit, and I missed all this. Like all of a sudden, I'm getting back online. Everyone's talking about Pokemon, and I'm noticing like everyone's playing it while I'm out in San Francisco and all these different places. And I thought, it'd be a fun to use Snapchat just to go up to these people that are on their phone playing and just scare them.
That's great.
Just make a series of scaring people playing Pokemon Go. That's wild. What'll be the next thing? Who knows? Yeah. But it'll be interesting if there's a way to incorporate that kind of technology with photography more than just a game.
Yes.
So, all right. So now we're going to move on to your last folder of photos here, which is was it commercial work?
Some more commercial editorial works and color.
And
some
color.
colors.
That's what separated it all. So you do shoot color.
Yes.
You do shoot color.
Sure.
All right. And one question before we talk about this was, do you normally shoot all the stuff that's black and white? You shoot it in color and then switch it to black and white in post, or do you shoot film, or do you shoot monochrome, or what do you do?
I rarely, convert my images in both sides. Before taking pictures or before starting work, I always try to set up my mindset. Okay, so for this work, I'm going to shoot in black and white, and for this work, I'm going to shoot in color.
Okay.
And then,
do you set your camera to only shoot black and white?
I have monochrome.
Oh, you have the Leica monochrome.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also when I shoot the black and white, I set up my camera in the black and white.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
For preview.
Oh, for preview. I see.
Yes.
Then you're shooting raw, I assume. Then. Okay. So you look at it on the back of your camera, black and white.
But I don't do it like.
Sure.
Like this.
I believe you.
Yes.
I believe you. Okay. So we're gonna get into your commercial, mostly color work. And this doesn't seem commercial to me. This seems your normal traditional documentary style.
Actually, we have a story about this body of works. So I now I'm stock contributing photographer for Redux Pictures. So it was maybe 2 years ago. So I had a chance to have some meeting with Marcel, our boss.
Yep.
So one day he asked me, "Hey, Woong-Jae, why don't you shoot in color? I want to see some color works from you." So okay, then what do you want to see? And so you're going back to South Korea, and why don't you show me the colorful, the sceneries of Seoul?
Right.
So that's how I started this work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you were pushed by this is a great shot.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's this use that you do with the shallow depth of field. I assume you're shooting 1.4 or whatever lens you've got, where you put the people dramatically out of focus, and I think a really neat effect that a lot of documentary photographers use. I probably would have been focusing on him or something, but you were trying to make a statement on the background, I assume.
Thank you. I didn't mean made it this for this specific pictures, but
just so happened the way it was.
Yeah, just happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm putting too much thought into it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So still showing a bit of the grunginess, but bringing the color in.
Yeah.
I see.
And also, this is commercial work. One of my friends, he owns a restaurant in West Village. And one day he asked me to take some pictures. the restaurant.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's as we're talking about this commercial journalism, we don't really make as much money as commercial advertising and other types of photography.
Yes.
So getting into commercial work, has that helped you sort of make a bit more of a living? You know, are you trying to shoot a little more of that so that you can afford to go follow these projects that you've been so beautifully documenting?
Yeah, well, financially, of course, it's very helpful. But at the same time, the commercial works, editorial works really helps me to find my own voice or visions.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes, I got some very interesting the commercial work or editorial work.
Here's the Eugene Richards photo, by the way, I was talking about earlier.
Eugene, those works, sometimes some newspapers ask me to take a very simple pictures of it, of architect something.
Mm-hmm.
But while developing my experience with commercial wall, then I realized that what I can do and what I can do and what I want to do and what I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of a filtering process.
Mm-hmm.
So I can narrow down my vision and my the strong side,
mm-hmm.
rather than following to the weak side to make money.
Right.
So I don't like that idea.
I've also been noticing some more portraiture in this category.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do much portraiture? Is that something that just sort of, are you setting up portraits, or are they more portraits, candid portraits?
The more candid, more environmental portraits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Pride Parade, is this year's, or was this
last
previous
year?
Previous
year.
Yeah, I believe it was a lot more sunny and hot this year, actually. Yeah, I remember I only photographed one Pride Parade, and it was when I was interning back in the million years ago, 10, 11 years ago now, for the Times. Do you like photographing these types of events? Do you like getting in, like, actual, like, going to events and photographing, or do you more prefer just doing what you do, walking around, finding your own thing?
I prefer find my own thing, but sometimes some events attracts me in so many ways, so many aspects. Like my photography, photojournalist side, or my personal side just resonates and speaks to me. Hey, you gotta go out and take the photos.
Right.
Whether you make the money or whether you publish the story or not.
Right.
Just go out and take pictures. That's the kind of the process in my head.
Was this a fashion shoot?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had a chance to meet editors in GQ. So he saw my black and white pictures at the bar, and he suddenly asked me, "Have you ever shot the fashion?"
Mm-hmm.
No. And his second question was, "Okay, does photojournalists shoot fashions?" Well, sure. So many
just in their own style, though.
Yeah, they have their own style. So that's how we started. So this photo shoot was for GQ Korea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very neat. And so you're making these connections. You just happened to meet this guy? Was it a photography meetup? How did you meet the editor of GQ?
Editor GQ was we met each other during my business career.
Oh, okay.
day.
So I knew you from back then.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. You have this business background, but you have these contacts, which I think
Yes.
is really important for people to realize that, when I worked for the New York Times as an intern and a freelancer, all these years I've made many, many contacts, and letting those people know that you're available for work is what it's all about. So
definitely.
I think it's important for people to know if they're trying to make a living, they have to reach out to and utilize the network that they have. All right, this looks like something military we've got going on.
Military drill in South Korea.
Okay. Were you on assignment or?
Assignment for the post.
Okay.
It was very interesting. It was like a medical drill.
Uh-huh.
So maybe in next pictures you will see maybe next one these guys. Yes. So
fake intestines here.
Yeah. So the whole the part of the body was made with it's very funny. They made it with condoms.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
They made their
filled with how can I say, the punch-aid, the red,
like red fruit punch.
Yeah, fruit punch.
Yeah,
fruit punch with some, I don't know. Anyways,
pretty realistic looking.
It's a very realistic.
Yeah.
That was very serious.
So this is the that's the end there. Awesome. Well, I think your work is really, really beautiful, and I think it's should be very inspiring for other folks, because there are so many people that I talk to that want to make the jump into photography full time, but they worry about making a living. I'm sure you made a decent salary at Nike and these other places to then fly halfway around the world, pay for schooling, and then completely change careers and hope to actually make a living doing that. Has it been difficult? Are you still having difficulty, making a living as a photographer? Are you having to subsidize it in different ways, or what's the scoop?
So I was very lucky because I had a decent job for 10 years.
Right.
So, actually I had now I'm relying on my bank account and some support sometimes from my family. But basically, I could live with my whole the account of savings so far.
Right.
But in that sense, I was very blessed and very lucky compared to the other emerging photographers who start from zero, from scratch.
Yeah. Sometimes it's harder to start from scratch than it is to, you had some savings. You were able to make that jump.
But the point is, actually, quite a number of people, young the photographers who just started their career back in South Korea or here in New York, ask me, how do you make a living and how do you monetize your work? But my answer is, if the purpose of this job is making money, then you better find another job, or you
especially journalism.
Yes, especially journalism. No, this is very practical. I think this is very practical advice. But the most important thing is, why do you want to be a photojournalist? What do you want to do with your pictures, with your photos? Then, actually, with assignments and commercial works, we can live with those monies.
Right.
Not we can't buy a Ferrari or a Porsche. Or we can't live the decent villas. But when it comes to living, and as a photojournalist, I think we have to keep the balance.
You have to do it all for the right reasons. You don't want to get into this industry for the wrong reasons, which is money, because obviously photojournalism, it's hard to make money. Some people can do a really good job with that. But at the same time, photojournalists have to make money somehow to be able to do what they do. Some people do it through shooting weddings or whatever. Some people do it through investing in real estate, or some people just have the money, whatever. So it's important. And of course, you had to have a business background, which is, I think, very important. A lot of people ask me, what do you recommend in college, going? I said, well, beyond photography, I think you should definitely take a business course, to know at least how to make a dollar, or how to monetize the work that you're producing. So, Woong-Jae, that was really great. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that is upcoming that you want to give a shout about, like new projects, or you just continuation of what you're doing here?
Yeah, so as I explained briefly, about the semiconductor project.
Yeah. Oh, you're making a book, you were saying?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay.
So I met the very great people, the editors and bookmakers and writers.
Yeah.
So we decided to work together closely. So I'm planning to go to Africa and then China from next month, or in September. And it will take a time, but I'm going to make a full body of works.
And then do you have any idea of what you're going to do in terms of publishing? Are you going to approach a publisher? Or are you going to work with an agent to get this work published?
So we have two goals: making books, and also making web-based cross-media. So in the end of the day, ultimately, I want to make a website dealing with the whole electronic industry's problems and issues. And whoever has the body of works or in various forms, they can add up their works to this site. So we really want to make a sort of portal for these issues.
Right.
So that's the ultimate goal. So it will take some more time, but
awesome.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Stay tuned, and we'll put your links below in the information either on Facebook or on YouTube. And of course, if you're watching this on our blog post, click on his website. I think that's it.
Yeah.
So,
thank you so much.
Thank you everybody that came in here in person. Thank you everybody who has been streaming on Facebook Live or watching on YouTube. Please subscribe again to our YouTube page, all of our social media, Facebook, everything's Photo Brigade. Check us out on Snapchat. What is your name on Instagram? You have
Shin Woong-Jae, ShinWoongJae. Same with my name.
We'll put that below as well. Thanks again to Canon Professional Services for your support, Adorama for the use of your space, and Temba Bags. Woong-Jae,
thank you so much, Robert.
All right, we'll see you all again next time. Thanks for coming.